Welcome to Rise, New Jersey's ultimate nightlife destination. It's the fall of 2009. Please bring your attention to center stage.
Party people!
Because it's time for tonight's main event. In the world of nightlife, music makes the difference in the way you start the day.
The finest ingredients are right in the mix.
Somebody say, oh yeah! Oh yeah!
Don't believe the hype is a sequel. Search the search, where is the justice? Couldn't find, so in God I trust this mind too. So it's strong and fruitful, and what I am, black and is beautiful. Not political, but aware. Power low with a powerful stare. Never bow down to a mortal man. Here I stand in my own command. Not a follower, not a leader. And exceed as sharp as a cleaver. Some are sinners, some are praisers. Me, Turbo B, heavenly hell raiser. Two from a kid make some folks stagger. Straight to the heart like a 12-inch dagger. Motley, way of the world, gaze upon the black pearl. Absorb the knowledge I speak. Don't believe the hype is a sequel. Don't believe the hype is a sequel. This one's real, so believe the hype. Don't believe the hype is a sequel.
And now, it's showtime.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. I see that you guys are starting to check in. What's up, everybody on Twitch? What's up, everybody out there? Hope you guys are sharing it. We're doing something a little different. We're also live on the Lost and Found page, but also going live into the public group of Rise tonight. So I figured we'll do a little something different for everyone that's out there. How are you guys doing? Welcome to December. Before we get things started, as always, thank you guys for tuning in so very much. We got a very wonderful guest, as you saw over the last couple parts, going over the whole entire history of nightlife, more specifically for this gentleman right here that's going to be going on. But before we get things going, just want to let you guys know that tonight's episode is brought to you by Livespin. You guys have been seeing me talk about it. Guess what? Going to be able to DJ virtually live into your household privately. So if you guys are having private events, bars, restaurants, if you want to broadcast a DJ live into your restaurants through your sound systems and screens, holla at your boy, because I'm available for bookings, and especially on New Year's Eve. That is going to be live and direct. And once again, thank you to the Livespin family, Anthony Vitale and Mike Gentili, for making this possible. Super cool. So once again, don't forget, I am taking bookings moving forward. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to any of my social media avenues, but as you guys, for Throwback Thursday, wanted to throw up an old mix from back in the day. This one is from the KTU Sanctuary, 103.5, level 5, 3 to 5 a.m. in the morning. You had people like myself, Denny Chetos, DJ Boris, Jonathan Peters, Johnny Vicious. We all know the KTU Sanctuary, and I was really blessed to be a part of that residency and that team. So today, I threw up some mixes up there for you. It's on SoundCloud, so please be sure to share it with everybody. Getting great feedback on it, so I'm really excited that you guys are enjoying it. Also, for next Thursday, switching things up just a little bit, we got DJ Brendan O'Neill. Really, really pumped to have him come to the loft and spin a very, very, very special trance classics set. That's right. Next Thursday, 8 o'clock, Brendan O'Neill is going to be live from the loft right here, doing a little trance set, all classics. If you guys don't know Brendan O'Neill, you probably heard him over at Pacha. You heard him at Cielo, opening up for guys like Oakenfold and PVD. He's been in the industry for a little while now, and really, really excited to have him come and play. Really, really super cool dude, and it's going to be such an amazing show. Getting a lot of requests for trance classics, so you know what? Might as well do it first here with Lost and Found and Brendan O'Neill. And shortly thereafter, on December 17th, we got my very, very good friend joining the live chat series. Mr. Lucas Parada himself is going to be on December 17th. That's in 2 weeks. So really, really pumped to have Lucas on. It's going to be freaking awesome. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And also, I just want to give a very big shout out to Throwbacks for the t-shirt. If you guys like the t-shirt, go hit that QR code and give them a follow. Give them listen to Throwback NYC apparel. It's fresh to death. It feels really, really good. It's got all classic stuff on there. So once again, if you want to check them out, click that QR code and you'll see everything else in there. But I guess without further ado, I think it's time to get this party started, right? So there's no other way to get this started tonight than to get a little warm up, right? I think it's a little time for warm up into what we're going to be talking about. So you know what? Let's just get this little intro going.
Let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rise, New Jersey's ultimate nightlife destination. It's spring 2018. Please bring your attention to center stage.
Party people!
Because it's time for tonight's main event. In the world of nightlife, music makes the difference in the way you start the day.
You have to ask you to try to stay calm, and it's important for everyone not to panic.
And now, it's showtime.
That's right. It is showtime, and it's my pleasure to bring in for 3 times the charm. Give it up for my man, Mr. Eugene Introna. Yo, what's up, brother?
That's great, man. How many different claps do you have?
It's just one. It's just one. But you know what I'm waiting to use? But I'm just going to use it now to get everybody hyped up. Oh
That's
man,
great, bro.
how are you, sir?
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Good. I got to tell you. So I heard you talking about that you have Lucas Prada coming up, which is great. Um, and I know we tried covering. I know tonight we're going to talk a lot, mostly about Rise in that era. But when we spoke about a lot of the artists, I got to tell you a Lucas Prada story.
Oh yeah.
Lucas forever was backup dancer for George Lamont.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. And so I'll never forget, like, when I got to know him, George only played by me maybe 3 times a year, 2 times a year. When I got to know Lucas, midway through George's career, he started telling me, he's like, and he goes, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be singing on this stage one day.
That's great.
And he was. He was. And when he came back, and I think what was his first track? Never Leave You Alone.
That was a great one.
Right?
Club banger.
And and he just rocked it, and then he came out with And She Said, and the freaking thing just erupted.
Oh, right.
And
All over the airwaves.
oh yeah, it was nuts. It was all over the country. And so remember back in that era when the My Sweet 16 thing was big on what was that, MTV?
MTV, yeah, it was that big show on MTV. Man, those Sweet 16s were bananas.
Yeah, so my daughter Alexa was 15. This was during the Soundgarden days. This is like in 2006. No, 2005. Okay. And so she wrote to MTV, and they questioned the kids, and they're like, well, you got to tell us why we're going to come out and cover your Sweet 16. What makes you so special? What's going to make your event so incredible? So she's like, well, my dad owns Soundgarden in Lodi, and he's on the radio, and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know how the heck it got out there, but all of a sudden I had every artist wanting to come and perform.
Yeah.
And Andrew, I swear to God, it was so crazy because back then, when parents used to come to rent the club out for a Sweet 16, all the kids wanted these super celebrity events. They were so dialed into what was going on with MTV. And I used to sit there with the mother and father and maybe an aunt or uncle with the kid and a couple of her friends, looking at the club and getting ready to book this thing. And they were like hammering them.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, so my daughter Alexa was like, my dad this, my dad that, yada yada yada, and then it came out. It turned out that a bunch of the artists were contacting me and going huge because they wanted the coverage because it was getting national. I think it was getting international coverage.
Yeah, it was a big show.
And they all wanted to come and do the show, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing this. All right. For a lot of reasons. I hate what I see when these kids are putting these parents through hell. I mean, it was nuts. I felt so bad.
But that was the entertainment part of it.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, so what I did was I said to Alexa, I'm like, Alexa, look, I'm just going to have 2 artists come. and I brought in Lucas. And right at that time, I don't know if yes, yeah, and she said was just breaking. So I brought Lucas in, which was a pop record, and it was big in the clubs, and it was also big for the younger kids as well. And then I also had Angelo Venuto because I had a lot of old timers in the room too. So we took care of all the Italians in the room.
Had to get
And
everybody.
Luke, yeah. So and my nephew Joey came up and he catered the event, and it was a real touching time because like today's the anniversary of my mom passing. It's 15 years ago, just so happens to be, and my mom was in the hospital at that day, and so I couldn't have her at the event, and I was even like iffy if it was going to happen because she was terminally ill, and so it turned out that we got the party off, and so here's Angelo Venuto. He's on and he's performing El Italiano and Sweet Caroline and all the Italians and everybody are going crazy, and then Lucas comes on and everyone's going out of their mind. Alexa and all her friends, because Alexa was living in Long Island. Me and her mom split, and her friends came over on a bus in Long Island. Some of her friends from New Jersey, and all of a sudden, my 6-year-old son is wearing a Lucas Prada shirt and jumps up on stage with Lucas and starts singing with him.
That you have to have that memory captured somewhere.
Oh, but wait a minute! I got to tell you where this went. This is crazy. Okay, so Lucas was losing his mind. Connor was just sitting there on the mic, and she said, and he was going pulling the mic in and out because the crowd was singing the chorus and stuff, and Connor was just mimicking Lucas. And my wife Sandy was in tears, and she's like, "Oh my God!" And all of a sudden, Lucas says to me, "Hey, Huge, could I bring him on tour with me?" And
No
I'm
way.
like, "Yeah, man, I swear to God." So now he's, I'm like, "Listen, I'm only going to do a couple of things. We'll do beach stock." And we did one KTU show at the Copa, and the only reason why I did this because he was small, he was only 6,
Yeah.
is because it was Lucas and because like my dearest friend ever, Vito Bruno.
Vito.
Okay, Vito Vito is the brainchild of nightlife in New York City, hands down. And he was the architect of beach stock.
Yeah.
And I knew he would make it right, and of course he had to approve it because Lucas was hired by Vito for the KTU Beach Stock show, and for like 2 or 3 years, Connor jumped up on stage with Lucas at PNC Art Center in Jones Beach 3 years in a row, and it's just crazy how stuff happens because now Connor broke his sweat. He had no fear in front of the audience. He has a complete love for the theater as a result of it. He doesn't blink. I'm so proud of him. He's currently working for J.P. Morgan Chase. He's doing his master's right now in Boston University, and technically right now he's supposed to be a senior in college. He graduated a year earlier, and a lot of his achievement has to do with him being in front of an audience because he loves theater and he's been in many plays. And he even said it to me the other night. If he had a choice of pursuing a financial career or going into theater, he would go into theater.
Yeah. Huh?
But that's the Lucas Prada story, and it's crazy how for everybody that's out there listening, Lucas and Michelle, I love them to death. They're very dear to me and Sandy and my family. They just had a little baby girl, and
They did.
yeah. So he's like,
And he's actually doing a live stream tomorrow night talking about his whole experience with that. So looking forward.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So when I heard you mention that you had Lucas coming on, incredible, totally incredible. But But yeah, that's that look. You know, there's a story behind everyone that's performed there,
Uh-huh.
everyone that's worked there, everyone that played music in that room. It's just incredible.
Uh-huh.
I think we got to do a 12 versions of this freaking interview.
Well,
But
well, you know
I
what?
had,
There's definitely a whole lot to fill in between just even these 3 interviews that we're doing. So
yeah,
we're definitely going to bring
yeah,
it live and direct right into this group right here. What's up,
yeah.
everybody in the Rise Lodi 2007 2018 group? Very nice to see everybody on. Dave Mondo just clicked in. What's up, Dave? Robbie D. Santanis is on. Brian Castelli is on. And hey, guys, everyone that's in the Rise group, feel free to share this feed. Let's get it. Let's get this to be an open house party, and let's get the good vibes flowing because we're going to be talking about the transition into Rise and what an institution Rise was for sure. But I'm sure. But I'm sure it's been, oh my God, there's just so much. Where do we start, Eugene? Where do we start?
Well, you know what? I'm going to help you along. I'm going to help you
Yeah.
along. Okay. You know, look, remember when I said in one of the last episodes, you know, this place has been in the same building for 37 years. Um, and going back to the Chicago days, when I changed the name from Chicago to Soundgarden, there was a reason because Chicago was a very well oiled machine. It was very well marketed. I think I remember saying I had over 1.7 million in just radio ads alone during the Hot 97 days
Yeah.
that marketed that name, and the brand was really, really strong. But the problem was the business was changing, and you know, music was changing, and I needed to go after a different audience that wasn't going to compete with myself. And the one thing that maintained was, you know, and during the Soundgarden days, is you know that Saturday night always remained the dance room with dance music featuring the hot dance artists going back to the Chicago days.
Way
And
back.
it was Friday that needed the diversity. So like Soundgarden, I shut down Rise. I shut down Soundgarden, and I handed everybody a flyer. And it was during the time. I think I wish I could find the flyer right now, but it was during the winter of 2007.
Mm-hmm.
We came back in the fall of 2008, and again, just like everybody was trying to figure out what the name was,
Yeah.
this time I came up with the name myself because I was thinking really deep, and I'm like, you know what? The last decade of Soundgarden was so like um, infected with the problems of 9/11. 9/11 really, really changed a lot, and I just felt like we needed to rise out of everything. And I said that to myself, and I'm like, there's the name. And it was crazy because I like you doing
Amazing.
a little these little subconscious hints. And when I wrote the flyer up that I gave to everyone, you know, it said we're re-identifying, rebranding, and I wrote at the end, you know, because 1 South Main Street will rise again. And I put the name in the flyer, and no one even picked up on it.
Nobody picked up, huh?
So what I did was when Ravine was one of my was one of my flyer designers, and he would do a lot of my logos.
Uh-huh.
Very talented, you know Ravine. Everybody knows Ravine.
My cousin.
Okay, so he created the swish,
Yeah.
the sunrise,
That's awesome.
and I remember the message that I put out there while we were closed was, you know, coming soon, and all you saw was the sun, the crest of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, just to bring you up to speed. So look, there was nothing wrong with Soundgarden, but the center stage night with the bands had a 9-year run,
Yeah.
and it was over. Remember, I was talking to you about the smoking thing,
Absolutely. Yeah.
how that changed everything. That had a lot to do with that, and you know, it was 11 years as Soundgarden, and it was time for another reboot and another, hit the reset switch again.
Yeah.
So the intention was to still maintain that status on Saturday night, but to diversify and do something different on Friday. And the plan, if you want me to get into this now, the plan was Saturday night was the dance night. Friday night, I came up with a happy hour event. But see, to know me is to know I do not like using the run-of-the-mill terms like come to happy hour.
Yeah.
I always like to think outside the box and create something that's a different, brand. So I called it the after work reception.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, remember how I was talking about how nightclubs, and I've consulted many people, how they can compete with themselves? I needed to find something that was not going to compete with Saturday night. Because Saturday night was a 21 to 35 audience, or maybe even a little bit younger, and I needed to do something that wasn't going to compete with that. So that's what I came up with, the after work reception. I mean, it was basically a happy hour, but it was a happy hour on steroids, because what you did was I opened up at 5:30. Okay. I got in touch with my culinary side with my team, and we started cooking in a very small kitchen.
Yeah. That food was amazing though.
Yeah, it was. And we started cooking, and we opened up, and the whole idea was to attract the alumni from Chicago and the early days of Soundgarden.
Yeah.
And in like 2 months' time, I started nailing it.
Yeah.
People were digging it. And, you always have critics in the business. I closed it.
Always got the armchair quarterbacks.
Yeah. I closed at midnight. All right. There'd be 400 or 500 people in the club. Everybody's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm doing this type of event to not compete with Saturday night, because it's later. It's 11, 12 o'clock. If the younger audience starts coming in to check it out, to come and hang, they're going to be disappointed because I'm going to shut the door, number one. Number two, I don't want them. I want them to come on Saturday, because to ask a specific targeted audience to come to your nightclub 2 nights in a row, it's not happening.
No.
That happened in the late 70s and maybe in the early 80s, but it didn't happen in the 90s, and it didn't happen in the 10s and the 20s, And so everyone's like, you're out of your mind. There's 400 people, 500 people in the room.
Yeah.
And you're closing. And it was, my thought process was, listen, I want to appeal to the alumni of Chicago and the early Soundgarden days. And I want these people that either work on Saturday or need to get up on Saturday because they have things to do, like shop, chores, whatever. And by them getting home at 12 o'clock, all right, they can get up on Saturday and not blow out their day.
Yeah, they could actually still function.
Yeah.
And come back to you on Saturday night.
No. Well, the whole idea was I didn't want them on Saturday night.
Yeah, but
it was an older demo. But if you saw it, it was a scene. You saw, those nice banquettes that I had built, that had custom built. You saw packs of girls that were in their mid to late 30s, 40s, late 40s. Packs of guys, couples coming there, eating small plate stuff. Everything was complimentary except the drinks, and the drinks were moderately priced, and everything was really, really good. And I started out with, I think, Chris Chuper and as a DJ, and then I don't know what happened. Chris had something else going on, or I was actually looking to bring in Johnny Buds, and Johnny Buds came in, or I was flip flopping Chris and Johnny Buds. They both did a killer job.
Speak of the devil, Chris Chupa just hopped on literally and says, "Hey, what's up, guys?"
Oh no, she hadn't. So Chris,
No shit, bro. What's up, Chris?
How you doing, buddy? So Chris came up. Chris was spinning. He did a phenomenal job, and then all of a sudden, when I saw that the night started taking shape, I'm like, you know what? Let me give it to him. I brought in a freestyle act. So every Friday, you saw a different freestyle act from back in the day. The show went on at 10:30, done by 11:15, 12 o'clock, lights were on, everybody was going home.
Yeah.
And I was seeing the success of my vision because I had people that I knew that were customers going, "Huge, this is great. I'm here. I'm meeting with old friends, new friends, making new friends, and I'm home. I'm either home early because I got shit to do tomorrow, or home early hooking up with somebody that I used to hook up with 20 years ago,
Yeah.
or somebody new, or whatever. However it worked out.
Hmm.
But it worked, and it was phenomenal. We were averaging probably anywhere between 5 and like 750 people, and it was so cool because it was a long day part because it started at 5:30 and it ended at 12, and you would see people come there at 5, 6 o'clock, leave, come back with 6 or 7 people because they either went somewhere else or whatever, and it was working, it was running on all 12 cylinders, and it was great. It didn't compete with Saturday night. Saturday night was still the house music, current dance music night, uh, which was a mind of its own. But there was a carryover of Soundgarden Saturdays and Chicago Saturdays and Tuesdays and Fridays from back in the '80s, and and it was something else. But it did come to an end because that demographic, uh, being a lot older, a generation before the Saturday generation, got tagged really hard when the market crashed in 2009.
Yeah. It was definitely tough times throughout that. What I will say though, that Friday night was so epic. Well, not even night, just that daytime party. I remember just going 2 nights in a row and seeing Chris Chupa spinning and everybody all dressed up in their work gear. And for me, it was just such a great atmosphere because it was, like you said, something different from the Saturday night. So it was a good breakup with things. I just said 2 nights in a row because at least I got some rest and I wasn't getting banged out on Friday night, so I could come back on Saturday.
Well,
But
listen, there were people that went that every nightclub has its fans that are going to show up any night that you're open,
yeah,
and you're one of them. So,
I
you
definitely
know,
was.
yeah. But I mean, systematically and from a marketing perspective, that was the reason behind that. So that's the backstory on that.
So
Um,
when Friday nights you had to shut that down, what did you follow up with? I mean, I know what you followed up with, but how did that decision come to be to turn that Friday night into what it was?
you mean after it lost its steam because of
Yeah,
the
didn't it
market
become
crash?
a Latin night on Friday nights?
Well, yeah. Well. Listen, the plan B was a Latin night,
Hmm.
and you know, I don't know. Again, if Ace is on, um, or people like Stevie Zacone or Dave Mendez, from the Soundgarden era, I did a Latin night just to get my feet wet, as I knew I was going to rebrand Soundgarden. I did it for a couple of months just to kind of like check out the scene and stuff, and uh, but it was my plan. It was my plan B, and um, I had it locked and loaded and ready to go. I actually uh, went and had a conversation with Eddie G at the time, who was the owner of Coco Bongo. I had met Eddie and his wife Hillary at the time on a radio call because they were buying radio from me at the time with on 92.3 now.
Mhm.
And Eddie's a great operator. He's like he's the king of Latin nightlife. And so I went and would talk to him about it, and he turned me on to a couple of spinners, introduced me to a couple of different people that I could use, to spin the music. Because I wound up booking, using Alex Sensation, and I marketed that really, really strong on La Mega.
Yeah,
And
big time.
yeah, it was pretty intense. And it was culture shock for the borough of Lodi. It was culture shock for the room, but we embraced it. And I think I went over it with you. What happened? How we prepared for that audience to come in to enter that nightclub, and they came into a room that was well oiled, that was highly produced, lived up to every thing that was marketed, whatever you heard about on the radio about what it was. I think I wrote that one slogan, everything you heard about this nightclub is true.
Mhm.
It was a cocky slogan, but it was true.
Hey, we got a big shout out going out to Johnny Buds. Johnny Buds is on. What's going on, brother? Scott Gallo is
So
on.
so while we have Johnny Buds on,
Uh-huh.
great spinner and a gentleman,
Big time. Clifton guy.
a gentleman. Now, if you start talking about Saturday night, everyone was speculating who was going to be the resident DJ on Saturday.
Oh yeah, big time. Everybody always wanted to know who your DJ was going to be.
Yeah. So that was like, and listen, I'll say it now, and I've said it to a couple of people one-on-one individually because I'm friends with everybody. I wish I had the capacity to own several places to employ all you guys,
Uh-huh.
but it just doesn't work that way. That's why I always had a great relationship with everyone.
Did.
Um, even if you never got a chance to work, and look, I knew how much of an experience it was for everyone to jump on that sound system, especially when I debuted Rise, because Rise audio surpassed anything that I ever had.
That sound system was bananas, and I know you and I were talking about it for a little while.
But this thing surpassed anything. I mean, Temptations was a unique sound because of the room, and it was a DJ's dream. A lot of these spinners, they were so amped up to get on that rig. It's like you're in the Makita, a goddamn Lamborghini, supercharged.
Supercharged.
So I know a lot of people were kind of wondering, oh God, who the heck is he going to put in there? I wound up deciding on Kirk Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him his new name, the Godfather of House.
The Godfather of House, Mr. Kirk Lopez. That was you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah. I'm like, I was doing a radio ad for Rise, and I'm like, you know what? I got to give this guy a new title. So I called him the Godfather of House. And then I started putting it on flyers and stuff, and in all the commercials and everything. And here's where Johnny Butts comes in. Johnny calls me up, and he's like, you know something, Huge? I'm not going to lie. I was hoping that I was going to be that guy. He goes, but I'm going to tell you something right now. You couldn't have picked a better person.
Yeah.
So that's how I explain Johnny Butts.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, he's a great spinner. He's a gentleman. He's been such a great friend to me. He's been a customer of mine from the Chicago days. God, he's so funny. Him and Jeff Z are like freaking shit and stink. The best of friends.
Where you find one, you see the other.
Oh God. And Johnny, and Johnny's like, he's a champion, man. He's got a great business with elite entertainment.
Yeah, he does.
He's mastered that. Does a really, really good job, and he said that to me, and he's like, huge. He goes, you couldn't have picked a better person.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is. I mean, everybody wants the gig. It was a good gig. It's a well advertised room. I mean, especially to someone that's got a side entertainment company. It helps. Every little bit helps. The exposure is incredible. But Johnny's been affiliated with radio from the KTU days, and he was doing stuff on Pulse 87, I think, for a little bit. And but yeah, he was like, kudos to Kirk, and Kirk was just like, I mean, he came in there and just destroyed that room on Saturday night. He had everybody losing their mind.
Yeah, Kirk's an amazing jock, amazing person. Had the
Yeah.
pleasure of working with him every Sunday night at Surf Club for many years. So I remember when I was spending with him at Surf on Sundays, everybody thought it was Latin night because it was Lopez and Mendez.
Oh my God!
People would call in at the Surf Club like, "Hey, is it Latin night on Sundays?" Like, no.
And you want to know something? I'm going to tell you something. No matter how you slice it, you hear what you just said? That people would call and assume.
Yeah.
The consumer has issue with that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how you feel about that, but it's like, it's like, are you a Latin club? Look, it was very difficult back in the Soundgarden days when I could not put a band on stage at a room called Chicago Nightclub because it was Guido heaven.
That it was.
You weren't getting a band audience to come to that room.
Yeah.
That's why I had to change the name. That's why I had to rebrand it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew with that comes the confusion. And I always did my best to segregate the marketing. Like I used to market Center Stage Night on Z100.
Yeah.
Because Z100 was top 40 radio.
Top 40 radio.
They weren't rhythmic, even though they would play rhythmic music, but they were, you heard them playing, Stone Temple Pilots and stuff like that, but guess what? The challenge was there. People are like, oh, the Nerds, Talk Voices at Soundgarden. And I even gave it its own name, Center Stage Night at the Soundgarden. I tried to, venueize it. I just came up with a new word, venueize.
Venueize. You heard it here.
So it's like, and guess what? Moving into the Rise era.
Yeah.
It's like even with the after work reception, if someone that was younger happened to show up there on a Friday because it's like, hey, going to this, I heard about this place Rise on the radio, or used to be the old Soundgarden. Let me go check it out. You walk into a room and here's a significantly older demo, a lot more older and mature, a lot more reserved. I had to worry about the people on set. I go, oh yeah, that's for older people now. It's almost like a prejudice,
Yeah.
And then, the next level was when I started doing the Latin night. Because you know how I roll with this stuff. I'm not going to go into anything half cocked.
No, you're the all in guy.
Yeah. I mean, I marketed that Friday night like it was the second coming of nightlife.
Yeah.
And it happened. It was tilted right out of the box.
Yeah, Friday nights were insane. I used to pop in there every
just,
once in a while because I'd love to see everybody dancing there. Great, amazing dancers. But not only that, I always loved to hear what Latin music sounded on your sound system.
Yeah, but the only problem was, okay, with Alex Sensation, when I reached out to him he wanted to do an exclusive there. Actually, him saying I want to be exclusive is what triggered me to call it Exclusive Latin Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is known for going and doing a gig at one club and shooting over the bridge and doing 2 more gigs. And the proximity of Rise to the GW 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
And he knew, I wasn't going to be this stickler there. You have to sit there and, and stay there till 2 in the morning. I'm like, as long as you're on at 1 o'clock at peak hour and you do an hour set, I'm good, And he knew that, and he wanted to be exclusive to me. And I'm like, that's fine, But you could ask anybody that's on that was venturing off into this night. When he came in, he was playing house music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a nice little vibe when you walked in and he was playing that.
He was playing house music because, Latin, all that bachata and reggaeton and salsa, salsa's an early night kind of music. And then, bachata is a breakdown and then, reggaeton would get you going. It was like that. And, we didn't play any hip hop.
No.
That was forbidden because I didn't want to go in that direction. But when Alex went on, Alex could have played country music.
Yeah.
And people would be like, huh, because he was just like, Alex was on a very powerful radio station during a very powerful day part, which is middays. And who listens to radio on middays hard? Women.
All
okay? Women. And that translates into his audience. And that's what he was all about.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I had him every Friday for, I want to say 6 years.
Yeah, it was Friday. Your Friday is always a good time, no matter what you did.
Yeah.
And
like one thing that you touched on, Andrew, mm-hmm. that's so true, and a lot of people that would come to the club would observe it and say the same thing. The direction of nightlife in the 2000s, in the 2009s and 10s and everything, everyone in the dance market kind of became too cool for the room kind of thing. And it's like, it was all about who's chilling with who and what VIP kind of thing. And it's like, you did. Yeah, you danced. But if you went to the Latin night, it reminded you of what it used to be like.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. The whole place was a dance floor.
Everybody was dancing in every corner of the place. And that was honestly, I loved seeing that because, us customers who really, really love that room, we appreciated other people enjoying that room. And
100%.
When you mentioned that the whole place was a dance floor, man, boy, was it.
It was. It was insane. It's like, I remember my security guy going, "Hey, you want these people dancing like this by the bar, flipping people around?" I'm like, "Listen, yes. Okay, we're hitting their center. Let them, because back in the day, if anyone started doing that near a bar, I'd be like, hey, you can't dance here. Go to the dance floor." Like everything changes,
Yeah.
And you got to be able to call those audibles because, if I sit there and start telling, 70 people between bar 1, bar 2, and bar 3, hey, you can't dance here. Just could you go to the dance floor? They're going to be like, F you, I'm having fun here. Leave me alone. Get out of my face,
Definitely, it was a pivot for me working in Latin clubs because dancing is such a big part of the culture that they do it anywhere. It doesn't really matter if it's by the bar, if it's on the dance floor. They just want to get down and dance.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that culture parties like really, really hard. And again, going back to why we're talking about this with the the confusion and with Lopez and Mendez and people thinking that you guys in Latin, that it's a Latin night. There's there's a bit of confusion amongst the clientele because you hear it. Hey, wait a minute! I go there on Friday. Yeah, Latin night in Lodi. Yeah. So as much as systematically I had a plan and a vision to execute, and I did execute it, I also had to worry about that cross-contamination of confusion,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah,
And
there's such a
my,
fine line when it comes to that. Such a fine.
yeah. And you know what? My marketing at the time was La Mega, specifically for Friday night. Now, we had Latinos pulling up on Saturday night.
Thinking that it's
And
the back to,
yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you know what I'm saying? It's hard to clear that confusion up with people. It's like you know,
Yeah.
it becomes a challenge. And then on Saturday night, you know, and listen, the 2008 to 2018, the Rise era had to be the most diverse. I don't want to call it a cluster F, but you know, New York radio had a lot to do with what went on in that room because that was my marketing medium. And if you remember, we were just coming out of Pulse 87 back in 2009. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That was a TV station down the dial on 87.9, I think, or 87.1. That radio station was programmed by none other than Joel Salkowitz, one of the greatest program directors in Market One ever. And that radio station had 1 million listeners, but it was being leased. It wasn't being run. It had a lot of flaws, and it didn't last. And then when that was over, you know, you still had KTU, but KTU was a different radio station. KTU was kind of like going real old. They weren't breaking a lot of new music. And long and behold, when 92.3, as the rock station with Howard Stern signed off, they stunted that for a couple of days, and they came out with 92.3 Now.
Yeah.
Which was a rhythmic leaning top 40 radio station.
It had a nice little run there. Did a couple of mixed shows for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and it had, you know, and I'm going to tell you something. What came of all of this with this era, I had more spinners play that room in that 11-year period than if I had Chicago and Soundgarden for like 5 more decades.
Yeah.
I brought in a lot of different people. You know, there were a lot of different players. I brought in a second resident jock behind Kirk, which was Tony Gia.
Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, Tony is a complete gentleman. And again, you know, just like Kirk, as much as Kirk, everyone loves Kirk, everyone wanted to be in Kirk's slot. There's no question about it.
Yeah. I mean, it was the hot spot. It was the Saturday night, you know.
Not even that. You know what it was too? It was the the Franco Iamello stigma. You know, it's like Franco was marketed. Franco was a great DJ. Franco was marketed, but you know, don't take away Franco's skills. He brought it every night, and he went on to become this big record executive, and he did it. It was him. Yeah, he was in a good stadium. He played in a good stadium.
Yeah.
Granted. Well, the same thing happened in the Soundgarden era with Stevie Zaccone and and Greg Padula and people that were like, you know, Franco's understudy. You know, like kind of like Soundgarden was kind of sandwiched between these two brands, and you know, like Kirk, people were growling at Kirk. Here's Tony Gia, young guy. I mean, I don't know how old he was at the time. He couldn't have been, Jesus. He had to be like 21, 22 years old. He couldn't have been much older than 22, 23. And, everyone was growling at him because I had him working with Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have him open up and go back and forth with Kirk. And, he was a little bit younger. And I started feeling, the confusion with Rise because of the identity of Latin Night being so strong. And, and Saturday Night changed. I didn't have a lot of the artists. Like any artist that I would bring back into the Rise days that was super successful was like Deborah Cox and stuff like Nadia Ali that was already there previously during the Soundgarden days as Io.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember. I had and Louis DeVito actually had to remind me of this. I had Io at Rise 7 weeks apart. What happened was she had that song that was really, really hot. What was it called? Pressure?
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And, Pressure was a huge record. And I brought her in. And I also brought her back on the Saturday before Thanksgiving Eve. That was the date that I traditionally did the Temptations Reunion Classics night with Denny.
Mm-hmm.
I brought Nadia Ali back in for that night.
Yeah.
And, and everyone's like, what are you doing? You know how you still always have those critics like, well, you just had her. Yeah, well, this is a different night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The Temptations Reunion Classics night is a completely different audience. And, Rapture, that was like a, I mean, you tell me, you're the spinner.
That was the anthem of all anthems that year. I think every
right?
jock was playing that record, and it was huge. It was massive, massive record.
Yeah, yeah. So, and Nadia Ali, I had her a total of 4 times. She didn't play anywhere else in Jersey. Very, very very easy to work with, but very difficult in anticipation of going into a nightclub that had horrible production. And as much as she was convinced from back in the Soundgarden days, I still had to do sound checks with her, and she was very, very picky. And God forbid there was a slightest bit of feedback or anything as such. She was just, but man, Kirk Lopez actually put up a video of her performing at Rise.
Yeah,
it's up on his page.
It is. I got.
She rocked it. She was unique. She was a Moroccan girl. She had a very unique voice, and she was exciting, and she was on that EDM tip.
She was. A lot of great mixes of that song. EDM mixes too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people perform by you, Huge. So many. Yeah. That's a whole nother episode. But
yeah,
tons of artists came through to you. What's someone during the Rise era that comes to mind that was just a showstopper? I know who I have in mind, but how about yourself?
One of the shows that I booked that had people hanging from the ceiling was John Martin.
Yeah, that was big.
The promotion behind that. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, that was actually the one that I was going to bring up because that was a great show, but I'm sure there's something behind that because there's always something behind something.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, God rest his soul, I worked with a gentleman named Vince Pellegrino. Vince Pellegrino was an independent music promoter. He was the big guy on the East Coast. Joe Isgro, who my buddy Joey Batts worked for 20-something years, was the big independent music promoter out on the West Coast. And so I went and I booked John Martin. And Vince calls me up, and Vince says, Eugene, listen, I'm working with this record label. I think it was, could it have been Capitol Records? You remember what record label the Swedish House Mafia thing was on?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I'm sure I know DJ Jeff Copel's on, so he'll probably put it in the comments.
Jeff will know.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeff is a One South Main Street Google. We'll be talking about Jeff soon too, and his contribution to that room later on in the later part of Rise. But let me tell you this story. So the backstory was Vince Pellegrino, big time independent music promoter, knowing that I marketed really, really strong. He said to me, he's like, Eugene, listen, he says, Swedish House Mafia is doing a concert. And they just so happened to be doing a concert the same night that you booked John Martin.
Yep.
I'm like, okay. He's like, that doesn't bother you, right? I'm like, no, not at all. So we worked out a thing where he's like, however you want to do it, we're going to sell you tickets at 50% below face value so you can give them away. All right. And I'm like, great. I'm like, could I do this for 5-6 weeks? He's like, yeah.
Sure.
Do it as long as you want. So I had this plan way in advance. And so I was giving away tickets to John Martin at Rise. And I think I did it for 5 or 6 weeks, and it lasted a good while. And it turned out that DJ Riddler texts me or calls me.
He hit you up.
And he said, yeah, he's like, huge. I just want you to know, Swedish House Mafia is tweeting that John Martin is not performing by you and they're not performing by you. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
Well, they aren't. They're not playing. And I had no intention on them. They're doing, and I was kind of like, Swedish House Mafia spinning Madison Square Garden. I mean, you got to admit, I don't know if you agree with it or not, but to think that was going to be at Madison Square Garden was kind of like all right, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
So, and it took a lot of balls because everyone's like, wait a second, you're giving away tickets to see Swedish House Mafia on a night when you have John Martin performing at your club. Isn't that competition to you?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people in the industry, they just kind of get so like smothered by, I can't do this if I'm doing that. I can't do this if I'm doing that. If I told anybody in the industry, well, I got Nadia Ali on October 9th and back at the club on November 24th, what are you doing? One has nothing to do with the other. It's a big record and it's entertainment, and this is how the chips roll. So it didn't bother me. All right. Anyway, long story quick. So I called up Vince Pellegrino and I'm like, Vince, I'm going to give you a screenshot. I'm a little concerned here. I don't know how much these guys resonate, but they're saying that they're not performing here, which they're not, but they're saying that John Martin's not here. And he hit the roof. I don't know if you ever knew Vince, Andrew.
Not personally.
Bro, I mean, and real great guy, very powerful guy in the music business. Very powerful. Okay. He called up the label with me on the phone. He's like, I gave you a nightclub to do a promotion that bought your tickets, giving them away, spending a couple of $1,000s a week on New York radio, to pre-hype your event, what the hell is this tweet?
Yeah.
Well, the backstory was the internal fight. And the internal fight was that John Martin allegedly signed an agreement that he would never perform.
Wow.
Without Swedish House Mafia. Which was the issue.
Yeah.
And so the producers, what are the three guys in the three producers, right? That are DJs?
Correct.
Am I right? So the three producers that are DJs, and listen, I'm not rolling on them, but I kind of get a chuckle when you watch these guys. They're behind 15 freaking CDJs and they're hitting all kinds of buttons. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the hell are you guys doing?
Jumping up and down.
Yeah, like really. And then you wave into the crowd like you're the Pope, and like, what are you doing?
Like
it's like anyway.
Like the Jesus Christ pose, like
yeah. It's like, what are you doing? So Vince fixed the issue. John Martin played at Madison Square Garden and came and played at Rise. The place was, what was the song that was out then? Help me out.
Jeff, we need you. What's the song, Jeff? Come on. Looking at the comments, brother. And guys, if anybody wants to join in live, scan that QR code. We'll bring you right in. Why not? The more the merrier, right? Who's brave enough? Who's the first brave soul to hop on with Mr. Mendez and Big Huge?
So whatever, I forget the song. I don't know. Was it? No, Leave the World Behind was Deborah Cox. I forget the name of the song. I'm sorry. I had a little bit of a rough day. Anyway, he did two songs. He did his hit and his next hit, and he had people going nuts. And if you could ask Ace if Ace is on,
yeah,
he jumped from the stage onto my truss. The truss that these 575 studio spots hang from.
Yeah.
He was hanging from the truss, and he proceeded, Save the World.
Mm-hmm.
That was the name of the song.
Save the World. Yeah, everybody started putting in the comments real quick. Big shout out, Jim Hype. What's going on? Tony Gia is on. What's up, Tony? It was nice seeing you a couple weeks ago. And Denny Chetos is on. Denny! What's up, Denny?
Oh, Denny. Stay on, Den, so I can talk about you. I actually talked about him enough in the past two episodes.
Yeah, but we love Denny, so we could keep talking.
Oh, God, you kidding me? In a class by himself. So anyway, he was hanging, what was it, Save the World. I think Tony just texted me that. Yeah, hold on. No, Don't You Worry, Child. Huge record. He was hanging from the truss, and all of a sudden, I got I have these tour lights. My moving heads were not those little stupid things that you buy in freaking Trader Joe's, or not Trader Joe's, Walmart. I got these huge 575 studio spots, and the damn thing has got to be like at least 24 inches in height, the head that moves around, and he's hanging from the truss. All of a sudden, he grabs onto the yoke of the light, and I'm like, oh my God, you got to be freaking kidding me. You're going to kill yourself. And finally, one of my security guys kind of grabbed him. So, but all in all, that was a huge, huge night. But it sucked because that's the last time he ever performed.
Yeah. Too bad. Big shout out, Otto D is on as well. What's up, Otto?
I was just talking to Otto last night.
Yeah.
Otto was a staple in that DJ booth, and man, did he make lights work?
Did he?
Oh God.
One of the best in the business.
Oh, without a doubt. And he's such a great friend, man.
Yeah.
Oh God. But yeah, so listen, what happened to John Martin, and I saw when I was talking to him that night, he was all upside down because he was in violation of what he signed.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And I think I was telling you this, and I don't know if you want me to get into it, but for all the music heads out there and people that love the dance stuff and the EDM stuff, and listen, in the 2005s and 10s, everything became the producer that turned into a DJ featuring the singer. But they really weren't featuring the singer because the dynamics of the record business, it
Everything
wasn't like
back.
20 years ago.
Everything was ass backwards during that time.
Yeah.
I never
It's
I never got that.
well, you know what it is? It's like it's like this. It's like, look, David Guetta, the Swedish House Mafia guy, these guys are not spinners.
Mm-mm.
They're keyboard players. They're musicians. They're studio musicians. The problem was they're not getting paid. They're not making money selling. There's no kind of the dynamics are different. They're not making any money selling any records because of iTunes, because that single-handedly destroyed the record business. So what did they do? They had to go out and perform.
Yeah, they had to play show.
And yeah, and they had to put the singer in. The singer didn't even matter.
No.
Because they took the stage. And there's where John Martin was buried. I mean, you mean to tell me for the Swedish House Mafia guys, there's 3 good producers and good key guys and good ears and stuff, they couldn't continue with somebody like John Martin?
Yeah.
He had a great voice.
Mm-hmm.
He had a great stage presence. So let the guy go out and spin. Let him go out. And like I think I was telling you in one conversation, another example of that is Avicii, God rest his soul, with Aloe Black.
All black. Yeah.
So when Wake Me Up came out, I contacted Aloe Black. I went direct. And I actually had him booked. But I had to be proactive and say, hey, you're going to do the dance version, because I knew he was a country artist. And they're like, well, we got to get back to you. His manager or whoever it was at the time, we got to get back to you on that. And I knew it. I knew I was going to hear something that I didn't want to hear. And they came back to me about 4 or 5 days later saying, look, we can't perform that version. Well, I can't have Aloe Black, with an acoustic guitar on stage and Rise.
No. You couldn't.
Right?
No.
So, and it was weird because Avicii at the time was managed by a guy that I used to book entertainment from that worked with my buddy Ruben Martinez a little bit. He used to bring in some of these artists from like the Canada area and stuff like that. And his name was David Brady, and he was instrumental with Avicii. And I got on the phone with him. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, well, it's like he's not the artist. Avicii's the artist.
Yeah.
So I sat there, and again, I don't want to take up too much time in this because there's a lot more here.
A lot more.
But I remember saying to him, I'm like, David, listen to me. All right. If you're instrumental with this guy Avicii, all right, and you see what's going on here with this Aloe Black, and if you don't let him come forward and be a part of this project, you are blowing the Super Bowl. You're blowing the Super Bowl and every Super Bowl thereafter. What do you mean, Eugene? Well, here's Avicii, a keyboard player turned DJ, because that's how he has to make his money, taking a country artist and blending him in with EDM, with the house music. This guy had an opportunity to start a whole new genre of music within that EDM family.
For sure.
And think about it, Andrew. back then, you know, country music isn't what it was 30 years ago. These country artists, they're heartthrobs. They all look like Lucas Prada.
They all look like Luke. That's a good one.
Right?
Yeah, they do.
And they sing and they're heartthrobs, and they females love them and stuff like that. And then you also have the female part of the country music genre. I just this Avicii guy could have been. He could have what he could have did with this. He could have started a whole new genre of music, but because of the situation and the fact that the only way for him to earn is to go out there as Avicii behind in front of this massive LED wall, opening up with the Who with his DJ set. I mean, I remember one time I took my wife to Yankee Stadium to see Madonna, and and Avicii opened up for Madonna, and my wife Sandy's like, "What the hell is this?" And her not coming to the clubs and knowing, I'm like, "Yeah, you have to understand." And I didn't even have the energy to explain to her what this was.
No, it not even worth it.
You know,
Yeah.
So here's Madonna doing Yankee Stadium. The next night she's down at Philadelphia Stadium, and she had Avicii again, or Laid Back Luke, or somebody like trying to mix in all of this stuff. And the bottom line here is, leave it up to dance music to fuck it up again.
Go figure.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
All right. And anybody that's on this, that's listening, guys like Danny, guys like Johnny Buds, anyone that's in the music, Jeff Capel, Tony G, you ask anyone, all right, and they'll tell you. And then if there's any record label people, they'll tell you the same thing. All right. This really, really fucked shit up.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
But something too, you got to blame it on the record business didn't respond to Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs turned and said to him, "Listen, I have a platform for you." They're like, "Nah, that's all right." He's like, "Well, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it." Well, that was the end of the record business.
Yeah. Sure was.
iTunes.
Killed it. Big ups. Jeff Z's in the house. What's up, Jeff Z?
Oh God, here you go. So you could ask Jeff that, and Jeff will back this up too.
Yeah.
I mean, me and Jeff had these conversations all the time. It's like, I think even Jeff remembers the story with Vince, because Jeff and Vince were really close. What I went through there with John Martin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
many things to talk about. Man, we could be here for days.
Oh yeah.
But you had some, when circling back into Rise and everything that got on there, you had some pretty amazing parties there. But there's one party in particular that stood above the rest, and that was that Temptations reunion party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, Denny brought it every time. And look, you want to know something? And he'll be one thing. Me and him have is a synergy. Me and Denny are wired, like hardwired. I almost got to do this when I walk away from him. And you know something? And it's not like he worked for me. He was never my resident. I met him many, many years ago when he was at Club Abyss and when he was starting to work at Temptations. But like, it's just about being on the same page. We have a brand that he was a part of, a major part of. We didn't overkill it.
Mm-mm.
We did it twice a year.
Done.
Yeah, and it was marketed well. I didn't just, listen. It wasn't a flyer. You know, it wasn't, you know, the Temptations Reunion Classics night with Denny Chetos, boom, flyer here. It was a well-produced spot that aired on the radio that got you out of your skin, that played on the radio station at the time, whether it was KTU during the Jeff Z days and Frankie Blue, whether it was, you know, during the Soundgarden era on 92.3 now, on AMP radio, the switchover, whatever it was. And then when the digital thing started coming in, I started doing the audio video composition where I took the same 60-second theater of the mind spot with all the snippets of the music and added content to it, and it even enhanced it more. And like I said, it was Denny, it was Denny with an artist. You know, it would be like, this time, Denny Chetos. This time with, I'd have Raina, Lucas Prada, Kim Sazi in one night
Actually,
on stage together.
you want to know what? I think I might have something here. Let me see if I could pull something up real quickly. Hold on one second.
Live from Rise in Lodi, it's the Temptations Reunion Classics Night with Denny Chetos working the mix.
I'm like sitting here dancing. Dude, that gave me the chills. What perfect timing, right? Perfect timing. We're talking about. I just happen to have it. Damn, I'm good.
So that those nights, and I think Denny, if is Denny still on, he could probably remember more of the artists that we brought in than I could recall, because we've done 2 of these a year. Sometimes if it ran right during the summer, we would do some during the summer too.
Mm-hmm.
But we had Deborah Cox a couple of times. I think I told you we had Nadia Ali. We've done Raina, Lucas Prada, and Kim Sazi. We've done Raina, Kim Sazi, and Veronica. I brought up the Indian from Florida, Ralph Falcon with Dark Beat. Denny helped me out. Denny would remember more of the artists that we did. Oh, Jesus.
Wait, there's just so many
I think we even had Christine W. one time.
Yeah, I think you guys did too, if I remember correctly.
We had Kim English one time, I believe. We had Vanessa Mitchell.
Tampera, Veronica,
yes,
Denny's typing in the comments. Thank you, Denny.
Tampera, Veronica, and it was great. And the one thing with Denny was like, he would always be like, "Huge, what time's the show coming on?" I'm like, "Soon. I'm going to let you know." He would every time he's like, "What time's the show going on?" Because I'm like, "Den, just freaking play, bro. Don't worry about it." Because he was so, he was so into the program.
Yeah.
And he knew, like, he just knew that after the show was over, he had to come out like a goddamn freaking racehorse.
And boy, did he every single time.
Yeah. And I'm like, listen, don't hold back. Just go. Don't worry about it. And every time, Denny's like, "Huge, what time's the show?" He would text me while he's spinning. I'm like, "Don't worry about it, man. Give it to him." And it always really went on. It didn't go on anytime past 10 after 1, But yeah, man. I mean,
epic nights.
Yeah. Epic night. And it was so cool because, like I was telling you back about during the Soundgarden days and Chicago with Franco and stuff, when I put on a show, that was the reset switch to the room.
Yeah.
that reset the night.
Hmm.
And for a guy like Denny, he's such a focused programmer. He's like he reads the room really well. And
Nobody does it
but he,
better. In my
yeah, he was so on point all the time.
yeah.
And like I told you, it's like since I closed, you know, um, we went to we went and did a show at Mr. East. Um, then we did a show at the Old Abyss, which was Pure, and then I think and like I think I told you on a 3-week promotion, we did HQ down in Atlantic City at the Ocean.
Yeah, that was a pretty epic one. That I had a really
Yeah,
down there.
and it was a weekend. It was a weekend when the weekend that Aerosmith was playing at Borgata. You couldn't get a room,
No.
and we pretty much filled up that room. Upstairs maybe it was 150 people, but the downstairs was shoulder to shoulder,
Hmm.
and that was a beautiful club. And Denny killed it there too. And
Yeah.
so and it's sad with what's going on now because we should have had, since this COVID thing happened, we should have had two of these in the bucket. We were set to go back to HQ,
Hmm.
um, and we were going to do something actually March 21st, right when they closed the state down. We were doing Society.
Yeah, I
And
remember I had a table booked that night
yeah,
at Society for this party. And then yeah,
yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah, Tommy and Errol, we got together and what happened was, Louis DeVito did an event there in late January or early February, and and I went there to surprise Lou, and I walked into this room, and the room had a really, really, really good vibe. It wasn't super big. It wasn't tiny, but it wasn't big. But it had a great vibe, and it took me 20 minutes to get to the DJ booth just to say hi to Lou. And so I got together with Tommy and with Errol, and we did. And the marketing was there. In fact, I remember Tommy Renucci's like, "Huge, we're sold out." This was 2 weeks before,
2 weeks before, yeah.
and we were all on pins and needles because of the goddamn COVID thing. You know, um, it was tough. It was tough. So we've been, I mean, we're all dormant, we're all feeling it. I don't want to get into that, but so let's move on to something else.
Hey, good things come to those who wait. And you know what? When we come back, it's going to be better than ever, and it gives us something to look forward to.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And then listen, we had some other really good events there too. You know, I didn't tap into the freestyle nights.
Oh man, those
I
are
didn't and the reason why I didn't do that, Andrew, and you could ask Jeff Z if he's still on, because I would talk to Jeff a lot. I he was always inside my head. I was always concerned about market confusion, and with the Temptations night with Denny, it was different because that audience bridged the current with the older that was still going out and would close the club at the end of the night. If you know what I mean, they're just like, the people that came out for the Temps night were the diehards that came out every Saturday at Temptations, at Soundgarden, Surf Club, and did all those clubs back then, the Metro Lounge Place and all these other spots, uh, they were all those diehards, and they would come out strong. And I mean, it was just my big concern with the freestyle stuff is that I couldn't bridge
those two worlds
the.
together.
Yeah, it was hard. It's like, with the Temptations night with Denny, I bridged it. with a Louis DeVito night. He bridged it. I bridged it with him because I marketed him. But like I said, if you get with Jeff, like Jeff will tell you, I was always concerned about that. So I kind of laid off the freestyle. And back in the Chicago days, when Hot 97 said goodbye in 1992, it was 1994, 95 before the new KTU sound came on. While Jeff was working down in Florida at the box. I did the freestyle dance music reunion, and that's what I called it back then. And that's when I put the three artists on stage together because they were all lost. They were like, what the hell to do? So when I re-entered that, it was like people lost their minds because, again, it's marketed correctly. It's getting you excited. The theater of the mind comes in on the radio. I was strong on 92.3 now, or when it's flipped over to AMP. I was able to do the audio video compositions and show a Karina and a Cynthia and a Lizette Melendez and a George Lamont singing and Sapphire, and then I would bring in TKA, and it was just nuts. So I started doing that again. And with that, I was using different spinners. I would bring in a guy like Anthony D, who's another phenomenal jock that's big on the circuit. A guy like Jeff Capel, who's the second Google behind Ace. Great programmers, these guys. Great programmers. Anthony Paglucci, another good friend to Jeff Z, from way back 20-something years ago. So, I would bring these artists in and bring in some different spinners. In addition to other nights, because during this time frame, keep in mind that, like I told you, I used more spinners in the Soundgarden era than ever before. Some of the big guys that were killing the room was like Little C. He was cracking the mic on in Market One on New York radio on 92.3 now.
Yeah, he was.
And then you had Toro. Like Toro was like, Toro was a board op for freaking that weirdo that was on the air for a little while, Tic Tac.
Mm-hmm.
And when Toro caught that break, I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So you had Little C, you had Toro, all right, and then the program, the assistant music director, Jay Dobby, another lightning rod.
Yeah, Jay's the man.
All right, and then you had David S.
Mm-hmm. Good little squad.
David was spinning for me back in the Soundgarden days when I was doing teen nights. When Tony Gia was coming to the teen nights, hanging out with my daughter.
Wow.
How's that?
That's going in.
I remember having to drive Tony Gia home to Wayne twice because he got left by his friends. He got, yeah.
Man, freaking Tony.
And all of a sudden, here he is, one of my main spinners. And, man, you want to talk about somebody that turns it out. Jesus Christ.
Tony's a great jock and
God.
guy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he does. He killed it. He killed it every time too. You didn't get bored with him spinning, and he went around playing everywhere. And he was big down at Jenkinson's during the summers and stuff like that. And other people like DJ Encore was another one that came into the room. Mm-hmm. He would work a couple of times. I would spot him in. And once in a while, I did some events with Richie Rydell. You remember Richie? Mm-hmm. I would do some stuff with him. And I had Mike Rizzo come and do a couple of guest spots a couple of times.
Yeah.
He was, who else? I'm trying to think of some of the other guys.
It's crazy. Now I'm thinking about it. I only got to play your room twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what?
Once was
Once was the surf club one, then
the
another
surf club.
night. But I always felt like I always wanted to play with you, Eugene, but I was such a customer that it was a place
Yeah.
that I wanted to frequent at and not really work at. Because,
Yeah. You hung out by Sandra's bar.
yeah. And actually, I think Sandra's on. I think she's in here. Hey, Sandra. Thanks for always hooking me up back in the day.
Yeah. You always hung out by Sandra's bar.
Sandra's bar, Ace's bar.
Sandra, Kim, and Kat,
Yeah.
and Dennis Dozenoff, and then Wade.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hold on. I
Yeah.
think I might have something here. Hold on one moment. I think we all could just sigh.
Well,
Oh.
and listen to me. All those bartenders, they're all mommies now.
Yeah, they
S-
are.
s-
We all grown up. They all grown up.
Sandra's got a little boy. Kim's got two little boys. Christina's got two twin girls. I mean, listen, it's crazy because I watched everyone involved with me over the years become daddies. Like Jeff Z's got twins. Danny Chetos and Maria have twins. I mean, I can go on and on. Now Lucas and Michelle are parents. Johnny Buds. I met all of these guys when they were still like, oh, what? Be a father? No. Oh, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. And now that you showed that video, that one artist that was singing on stage was also part of a temps night with Denny was Luz Davina.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah. When I was watching it back, I'd realized that it was Luz. I'm like, wait a minute, is that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I did a couple of as far as classic nights, I went outside the box. I did a classic night with Jonathan Peters one night too.
Mm-hmm.
We did another massive night that we did with Cohen Dimitri. We did and with Benoit, we did Digging in the Crates.
Yeah. That's always a good time, Mr. Richie
Yeah.
Anna.
Yeah, with Richie Santana, and that was a full room that night. That was pretty much rivals the Temptations Classics night. A little bit of a deeper scene, but that was a massive night too. And like I said, I did stuff with Richie and with Petey there back in the day. We did a couple of those events, and they fired off really well too. So it wasn't just, the Temptations night was my brand with Denny, and Denny's brand too. So like maybe once in a while we'd sprinkle them in. I think at one time we had Oscar G come in and we did the Martinez brothers.
Tina's brothers.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah, I was testing out that stuff. That really wasn't for that room because it was just too. It was too deep.
It was too dark, and the vibe of Rise was just such energy that anything else outside of that just it didn't fit the vibe of the room, in my opinion.
Yeah.
'Cause I was there.
And you know what? You know what, Andrew? That's why I didn't do it.
Hmm.
It didn't. I think I gave you the analogy of the chef. You know, it's like, if you bring a new chef into a restaurant to do a guest spot, and all of a sudden, he's going to cook his way, and he's going to get into a different lane with the menu. Do that consecutively enough, and you'll have a one-off haul.
Hmm.
You know.
Didn't feel right.
No, and
But you
because
got to try it. You gave it a shot.
yeah. Listen, and I just knew, there was political tone about it too that I didn't agree with. Okay, there was a lot of baggage that came with it that I absolutely wanted nothing to do with and getting involved with that because, when these people were booked in these other places, they were propped up that they were very expensive and it cost a lot of money to go into the places because they were playing there. I didn't want any of that shit rubbing off into my room. I didn't want that misleading perception coming into my space, if that makes any sense.
No, it
You
makes
know,
complete sense. Makes complete sense.
I mean, to have someone spin in that booth and not drop a vocal the whole night.
Just
Come on.
it didn't fit. It's like the
No,
puzzle pieces didn't match up.
no,
No.
no. Even with digging in the crates, and I know Richie Santana and that whole audience is kind of like dark and deep. You come in that room, the room forces you to get into the right lane.
Yeah, it had the sensory experience when you walked in. You heard the rumble when you walked in. The color scheme, the light show, um,
Right.
the midnight snack.
Oh shit.
Best thing ever. That pizza. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you something funny. There's some thing on Facebook. It's some pizza page,
Uh huh.
some best pizza. So
Yeah. Wait,
I
that made
I
it on
put
there?
no.
Oh,
Uh, it was like post your favorite pizza. It's a page. Um, it's a group page designated to pizza.
uh huh.
So I'm like, screw it. I put a picture of one of our pizzas up.
Yeah. Did it get like a million
This
likes?
Well, I'm like, listen, I go, I don't know if this looks familiar. I mean, anyone that knew my name probably already could connect the dots and said, okay, this is Rise. But it was kind of like a different page. I don't think anyone knew who the hell I was, but the pizza looked pretty goddamn good.
Yeah.
And it's great because Bobby Bottles.
Bobby
Remember
Bottles.
Bobby
Good old
Bottles?
Bobby
Remember?
Bottles.
Yeah, Bobby Bottles. God, everyone had different names from. They called him Shine Rob. God, he he has pitches because
Yeah.
he had everybody in the room convinced that he was the head chef of the club.
For a short period, for like a week or two, I thought that was the
Oh
case.
yeah,
Where did that idea inspire from? Like, what made you come up with the midnight snack?
well, when look when we started the after work reception, there was food.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, on Thursday and Friday, I worked 24 hours. I literally didn't get any sleep. And look, I'm a foodie.
Yeah.
All right. I am as passionate about cooking as I am about the sound
Oh
and
wow.
the cleanliness and a good radio spot.
Oh wow. I didn't.
All right.
I thought. I knew you liked to cook, but I didn't know it was up there like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, no. And you want to know something? It's in the blood. Just anyone that wants, just to punctuate it, just go to Joe Leone's in Point Pleasant.
all right. You're gonna have to drive down to Jolion's maybe this weekend.
That's my nephew, and it's in the DNA. I mean, he's a champion. He's a super chef. He's a real chef.
Uh huh.
I'm not a real chef. He's a real chef.
Yeah.
But the DNA is in there, and he's been up there a bunch of times with his wife Jen, and actually back in the day when I was doing Rush Hour. Remember Rush Hour at Soundgarden?
Yeah, absolutely. That was
Well, Joe Leone was catering that.
yeah. I remember that.
He was catering that every Friday. That went on for a good 2 years.
Yeah. So what was the you just was like screw it. Everyone's hungry on a Saturday night. Let me just put this out.
No, you know what? You know what? Because things changed. Um, listen, my cover charge was still the same whether I had a Tamps night or a freestyle. Well, sometimes it would go up a little bit. I can't say that, but I just felt like I needed something that would act as the reset button to the night. Remember how I told you how I approached the whole artist thing with the 1 o'clock, 1:10 show?
Oh yeah.
Well, you know, the midnight snack. Look, people, and with all the drunken driving and stuff, people needed to feel safe. Um, and I wasn't spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a night on entertainment. And how I approached the midnight snack, Andrew, was it came out at 20 minutes after 12, which could be the turning point of the night for everyone that came out there at like 11, 11:30, quarter to 12. That became the reset button to the night in a way. It gave people a sense of feeling, comfortable, and everything was designed to keep you sober. There was a lot of starch on that table,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of starch.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah, and you want to know something? Everyone was looking at me like I had friends of mine in the restaurant business going, "Huge. After the weekend's over, I'm going to come and get you, and I'm taking you to the hospital." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm going to take you to a mental institution. Are you out of your effing mind with this food? And it's for free." I'm like, "No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not out of my mind." Because it would go till 3 in the morning. Like the house lights would be on, the music would be off, and you could ask Bobby if you can get Bobby on here, or even ask Ace or anybody that works for me, or if you said Sandra's on, or Denny or anyone. I mean, in fact, even Denny would be like, "There's no more food left." I'm like, "Den, it's 3:30." He goes, "Yeah, well, I had a pizza last time I was here at 10 after 3." It's like, but listen, it was great. It gave everybody that security blanket. It allowed everybody to be sober. Um, like I said, there was a lot of starch on the table. You had that thin crust pizza. We made calzones. We made every type of calzone you could imagine. We had a Cuban calzone. We had a sausage and pepper calzone. We had a cheesesteak calzone. We had a ricotta calzone. On Friday night, the calzones were called empanadas. I think I told you that already.
Yeah, you did.
Because on Latin night, like Latin and Italian are the same damn thing. It's just like, okay, well, they're empanadas. No, they're calzones. No, they're empanadas. All right. And even people on Saturday were like, "Oh, those are empanadas?" Oh, yeah, they're empanadas.
Yeah.
But we did some really, really cool shit. I got some good input from the people that worked by me. Like, I think Sandra and Kim were like, because I think they used to like chicken, so they kind of influenced me to do chicken in a cup with what do you call that, that freaking hot sauce,
What, sriracha?
not sriracha because that's too hot,
Yeah.
the buffalo chicken.
Ah, okay.
So I had buffalo chicken. It was kicked back so it wasn't too hot. I had crumbled blue cheese and with buffalo chicken and chicken in a cup with a fork in it. People are like, "What the fuck is this? You got me out of your mind." I was doing sweet potato fries with a a horseradish mayo in it and cheese fries. And then I used to make my own chili like I did back in the day.
Yeah.
We had the best chili cheese freaking dogs.
So good.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you had dumplings too, I think, if I remember.
yes,
The
yeah. We did some.
Asian in me was like gravitating to
Yeah,
dumplings.
yeah. It's like, and I remember Lucas Prada said to me, he's like, huge. He says, you ought to put a camera behind the midnight snack thing and just put it on fast forward and people coming out. And going back to Bobby Bottles, he gave himself that name because we didn't have enough bottle girls or waitresses that night. Someone got sick, so he wound up doing that too.
Uh-huh.
But I swear to God, it turned out that he used to come out and bring the food out. Him and he's the only guy that had his own assistants. He was almost like his own manager.
Yeah.
You know.
Did he talk about himself in like the third person, like The Rock?
Well, look, no, you know what he did? You know what he did? It's like he's out there and he's talking to the customers, and he came out and he goes, and it's almost like he was a waiter at a real high end restaurant, and he's like, tonight I have something new coming out that I made to you guys today. It's pastrami pizza. It's pastrami on top of pizza with a special cheese that we use, Fontanella cheese. He's like, I got you. I'm coming out with it soon.
That's
I designed a new bacon, lettuce, and tomato pizza. Like he had everybody convinced that he
was a chef.
He was the chef. Meantime, I got Jackie back there, who was my main girl working in the kitchen. Kim used to work in the kitchen before she became a full-time bartender. Jay Money, remember Jay Money?
Yeah, I remember Jay.
Jason Harrison, he was back there before he moved to Florida. I had Grace and I had Tony and I had a bunch of great people back there in the kitchen, Melissa, and we had Kenny walking around with food and everything, and it was great. Everybody had fun.
Good times.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
100.
But yeah, that's why that was done. It was and it became a staple. And you want to know something? If it's 2020, a real screwed up time, but if someone said to me, "Huge, we're going to open up a nightclub and you're going to be the director of operations," I'm going to be like, "All right, we need a kitchen. We need a kitchen, and we need to do this at midnight." Hands down, because it became such a centerpiece. It became such a staple. And people enjoyed it. It was great.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It was awesome. I truly enjoyed it.
Yep.
That was one of the many things that I just remember from just being such a customer, piece of furniture in that place, going each and every single week. But you know what? To follow up with something that we always talked about, you always put together such an amazing staff, and the staff really added to the atmosphere of going there. You had an amazing team, and like I said, when you discussed and we discussed earlier, you always have that talent to really put the right people behind the bar, the right music that's playing, the sound. It was just a whole sensory experience. And I think, looking back, I wasn't there for Chicago's. I was there for Soundgarden, there for Rise. And Rise by far was my favorite, for sure, anywhere that I've been. And I want to say that right now. Twilo and you, two best clubs I've been to.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, look, the staff, the team that I had there, you know what? Everybody was an asset, Andrew.
Everybody.
Nothing, no one outshined anybody in that room. It's just the way it was. It was always like that there. I never allowed, nobody was more important than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. When you walked in the room, it just like you felt the family atmosphere. You felt the camaraderie amongst everybody. You saw everyone getting along, having a great time, working together. It just adds to the atmosphere. As like I said, a customer coming into a room and you just see that harmony, and it's truly amazing. And you've always had that in all your places.
Yeah, well, and you want to know something? It's like I think I told you this, and Sandra could attest to this. Um, Sandra started working for me. She was 20, um, maybe 20, 21 years old, and she came in a young girl when I still had a lot of the older bartenders from the Soundgarden days, like Marco and Tetro and Fabe and Ace at the time and Richie and guys like that. I didn't have a big female team, and you know, Sandra was like the mother hen. I forgot who gave her that title. I think she might even give that title to herself. Um, Sandra kind of broke everybody in. When someone new came, like they knew that they could talk to her, and she would kind of lead the way on everyone. Um, and it just became, like I said, there was no turnover. No one left. No one left to go work anywhere else.
No.
They left because they went on. They went on to do something else, not work at another place. I could say that for for Sandra and for Christina and for Kim and for Kat and for Dennis Dorzanoff and Adriana and like Erica, even though Erica worked a bunch of places, but Erica was a sweetheart. Susanna, I had this girl, Susanna Nunez. It was the funniest thing. It's like she had worked over at Bliss in Clifton, and I had hired her to work on the Latin night because a lot of my Saturday night bartenders couldn't work on Friday, and I had Susanna come in, and I hired a guy named Omar, and like Susanna's like this Spanish girl. She's a real sweetheart. And I don't know if you remember, she worked at Bar One with Erica, and she was actually like I knew she was kind of like looking at me like who the fuck is this guy? Like what the hell is this all about? Like almost like she didn't trust what I was, and I kind of felt that she didn't until finally when I got to be friendly enough with her to go, hey, did you think I was an asshole for the last couple of months?
Hmm.
And she had no filter. She's like, yeah. She goes, I didn't know how to read you. I just thought you just like everybody else in this business. And I'm like, well, I'm not, you know. And if you go and read her, she when I closed, I'm telling you, my eyes were filling up with water, man. She went off on her experience with me, and she was just a sweetheart. And then I had, people like Natasha, who was another sweetheart, and Adriana. And then another cool story, Nikki, Nicole. Nicole had worked, um, and I don't know if she's on or if Otto's still on. Otto should try to get her to come on so she could hear this, or maybe she could view it at another time. But, um, you know, um, Christina had was pregnant and she had gotten married, and I think we started losing a couple of people because they were just moving on, and we needed some extra bartenders. And Nikki was recommended by Wade or by Justin. That's another guy, Justin Angelica and Justin Marchese. And so Nikki comes along, and so she comes in for an interview. Now, I already knew customers that knew her, like Mike LaRosa and stuff like that. And she used to work for Joey, and, Joey Barcelona and me like this. So she comes in and she's sitting down, and I could tell she was a little like uneasy, and I calmed her down, and she's like, yeah, she goes, I've been doing this for a while, but I kind of been out of it. And she kind of like stopped me down and said to me, she goes, I just want you to know something. I hope you don't get upset. I don't have a following. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And like I wanted to hug the girl and go, Jesus fucking Christ. because I had such little turnover. And here I am interviewing this girl who I pretty much was going to hire because she was so highly recommended, but she was concerned
About having a following.
Yeah. And I'm like, you want to know something? I love you. All right. Because anyone that comes and sits in front of me that tells me they have a following, I don't want them here.
Yeah. Because it's not about the following, it's about the service.
Yeah. And I'm like, you want to know something? And she had this preconceived notion that came from that mentality. Like, well, what are you bringing?
Yeah.
That's just like what all the DJs went through. Well, what are you bringing to the table?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were supposed to bring shit to the table.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, And I looked at her and I'm like, honey, you're in here and God bless you. And I can give two shits if you have a following or not. All right. As long as you're honest and you know what you're doing, you're in the team. You're part of the team. And you know something? I'll forever tell people that story. I still tell people to today that story about this girl. And she moved to South Carolina. I actually spoke to her last night because she's working at a restaurant, and this girl was nothing but a sweetheart. And she would take a bullet. She would take a hollow nosed bullet for me, and it just bothered me because I the way she conducted herself with me showed me what it's like out there.
Yeah.
When you to get hired somewhere else, it's like, all right, what are you going to bring? So that was that. But yeah, she's so many people, and then let's not forget the security. Great security people. Big Mike and Christoph and Mario and Reno and Randy and Anthony. I mean, come on, you're talking about some great people, and Hector and these guys were wired to me. They were gentlemen. They weren't there to rough. They were there. They were on my page. They understood the dynamics of what Rise was, especially with the new Latin night coming into play, and how we were going after a different audience with a completely different culture and stuff like that. So everybody in that room, Andrew, was an asset.
Yeah.
And
They're
and if you came in as a guest, like you did a couple of times,
couple of times.
whether it was you, whether it was John Ferrugio, whether it was guys like Dom Caruso, I'm trying to think of some of the other people. Victor Sawicki, he's another guy, another gentleman. He got married. He has a baby girl. He's got he's a painting contractor. Another dear friend of mine that I love, I talk to all the time from Westchester. I had him there a lot. DJ Surge.
Surge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Surge in Long Island he's the Kirk Lopez and Johnny Buds of Long Island.
Yeah.
And Westchester.
Great jock and Westchester.
Great jock. He's got, DJ Surge Entertainment, flawless, does a phenomenal job, And look, I admire all of these guys that have their private businesses, like Dave Mondo and Little C with Posh Entertainment. And I mean, I can go on and on and on with all of these guys that have their own private business, even Tony Gia and like Chris Jimenez and, so many great guys. And again, something, it's amazing that I'm sorry that I couldn't employ all of you guys as much as I'd love to, but I know I wasn't good enough to own a couple more places because it would have probably put me in the ground earlier, But yeah, Serge was phenomenal. I used to bring him in a lot from Westchester, and a lot of Westchester and in Spring Valley and that whole area and Yonkers. They're very prominent in that room. It's only a 20-minute drive.
Yeah, you had everybody in the tri-state area in the room, and
Yeah.
it was the location. The location was so convenient because you're so close to the bridge, I mean, you're right there.
Yeah, I'd have Glenn Fisher come in. I mean, I had Jason Ojeda once or twice. The only guys that I never brought in that I talked to are guys like Dimitri and Theo. I would have loved to have done things with them at some point. Chris Panaggi is another guy.
Uh,
Chris the Greek.
Chris the Greek.
But
Yeah.
I had I had people like Manny the Greek, who's another great. What a gentleman he is. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Uh, I'd have him come up and do a couple of guest spots, and I hope I'm not forgetting anybody because I don't want to insult anyone because I had so many good friends, guys that were good people. Even there was even bartenders, Andrew, that worked at other places that I would have loved to have given a job to, but that I couldn't because I just didn't have room. You know, it was that kind of a thing where I had these relationships with so many people. But just
Yeah.
checking my phone.
Well, I
I'm
mean, you
sorry.
have so many relationships with so many people because I think we look to you like your dad. You
Yeah, well,
created, and in all these years of being in the industry, Eugene, you've been such a father and mentor to so many people,
yeah.
and it's just an amazing thing. It's
Hey,
admirable.
dude, the door was always open. Another shout out to a guy like Nicky for, and then and during the summer months, I started doing some different events during the summer when it would get slower. People would be down the shore. I started doing some Polish stuff with my boy Tommy, and
Yeah, on Saturday nights, those
yeah,
were pretty good.
oh, they were
That
awesome. They
Yeah,
were
that was
awesome,
actually
and
another market that I had no idea about until you started doing it. And then more and more, I started understanding those parties were huge and the music was great, high energy.
oh God, forget about it. The music was phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, Camille Progotsky, Tommy Novak, and one of my dear friends that does a lot of work for me, DJ Johnny. Remember Johnny that owned the European record store?
Yeah. Hmm.
You remember him?
Yeah. Great music. Yeah.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. You want to talk about it? He's another guy. He's in the video side of the entertainment business. He does most of my video stuff for all my audio video compositions.
Yeah.
Major talent, major musical talent. I mean, these guys are like right up there with all that Euro stuff. In fact, all of them, Andrew. If you remember back in the day, when I would bring in Cascada, DHT, remember all that stuff?
Yeah. Really, really great shows. And they were awesome nights.
Fun, Fun Factory. Remember all that stuff?
Yeah.
You know, they were coming in. Ian Vandal, Glasgow. When I was bringing those artists in, all right, I couldn't just bring them by myself. There was a hall in Passaic called the Polish American Club.
Hmm.
It was a lunch hall. That was a Polish night.
Wow.
So I used to partner up with them, and they would do an early night show.
And then, wow, look at that.
Yeah, with a completely different audience. It was either I was sharing them with that, or I was sharing shows with a club in Queens called DNA
DNA.
in
Yeah.
in
Story.
Astoria, or I would do a couple of things with a couple of clubs in the city or Brooklyn, or like sometimes at Webster Hall, and um, it depended on who on what the artist was, because these artists, when they fly over, Ruben Martinez is my agent. It was a lot of work. You had to get visas for all the artists, and work visas, and there's all kinds of taxes involved, and just the flights and everything alone. You needed to have more shows to make it worth it. Otherwise, some of these shows would cost in excess of $10,000.
Yeah.
So at least I'd be able to like split the shows, and so that's how I met all of these guys in the Polish market. And the Polish market's strong as hell. And you want to see a culture that enjoys house music.
Yeah.
You know,
That was the thing that
I mean,
I felt when I walked into your Saturdays when I wasn't playing and I would come visit. The energy was just It was crazy.
And you know something? When the Polish American place closed, we started getting a lot of that crowd by us.
Yeah.
They started assimilating, you know. So it's crazy how the dynamics work,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I mean, when we would bring in DHT and Lasgo and Ian Van Dahl, oh my God. I remember, I mean, I think it was two separate nights. I think we had Anna Grace, which is Ian Van Dahl, for one of the classic nights.
Yeah.
And Lasgo.
Hmm.
I mean, you gotta ask Denny if Denny would remember that. Um, you know, I remember. Yeah, we had Anna Grace for a Temptations Classics night,
Yeah.
and when she did "Castles in the Sky" and "Will I" and that song "Reasons," and I'm trying to remember if, and again, I'm not getting sick, so let's not panic. I even think I had Corona. God forbid that name right now.
Yeah. Rhythm of the Night. Let's clarify.
Yeah, I mean, I debuted her. I mean, I think we were the only club to ever have her back in the Soundgarden days.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think I had her early on in Rise. I might have had her, or I was, I know I was trying to work on getting her, because she's from Italy. But I mean, I remember having her. If you go look at her stuff on YouTube, we had that in that room, performing "Baby Baby" and "This Is the Rhythm of the Night," and try me out. I remember, I watched her stuff. She's, phenomenal. That was the stuff. So we had a lot of that Euro based stuff, and it brought in that, the Polish, and they drink.
They drink. So not a bad thing to have.
No, they, to communicate with them sometimes is a little different because they're kind of jaded to their own, They don't want to be told that you got to stop drinking sometimes.
They want to keep the party going.
Well, listen, you could ask any of my staff. I operated from a position of accountability.
Absolutely.
And we watched everybody, and that was part of that whole thing outside under the canopy when you were leaving. If one of my guys thought you were a little bit too lit, we got you a ride home.
Yeah.
Paid for a lot of taxis.
Sure.
Before Uber.
Before Uber.
And Lyft.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Eugene.
And the midnight snack really helped sober everybody up there too.
It definitely did. I mean, for sure I did, I only lived right around the corner, but it definitely helped me out. Man, huge. 2 hours and 13 minutes. I think.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I think to be continued. To be continued. More and more.
Yeah, we got to give it a little bit of a rest though now. When we have to, I know you're gonna go. You said you're gonna do Lucas. I can't wait to tune into that. And
we got Brendan O'Neill next week.
Brendan's another guy that spun by me and did some spots.
Yeah.
Brendan's a real nice guy.
Yeah, I can't wait.
You talk about someone that loves this music, man.
Mm-hmm.
He was when I brought him in, he was like so honored to play, and he's actually my neighbor.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah,
great guy.
So
another complete gentleman, and another Google of music too.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. He's going to be doing a trance classics next week, so
awesome.
Really pumped about that.
Awesome.
But my brother, we have plenty more to talk about.
Yeah,
plenty more to talk about. So this is not goodbye. This is to be continued.
I'll be tuning into you. I'll be tuning into your next stuff. I love you, man. Happy Thanksgiving. The Christmas season's coming up.
Yeah, it is.
We have everyone's got to be safe. It's like let's hopefully get past this freaking. We are in a dilemma and a half. We need to get out of this hole, man.
And we will.
Yeah.
All right, Huge. Have an amazing evening. Thank you
Andrew,
so much.
Thank you.
You are the man. You're the man. You're the man.
No, you're the man. Thank you so much.
All right. Guys,
Cheers.
give it up for Eugene. 3-part series, and there's still more to come. We're going to be broadcasting a couple more shows right here on the Rise Classics page for all you guys, because like I said, we didn't even scratch the surface for a lot of the things that we wanted to talk about. So guys, pay attention to the posts that are going on in the group. We'll keep you updated when Eugene and I will be back, but also big shout out to Live Spin for sponsoring this evening. Really, really appreciate that. Don't forget, I do have my K2 mixes from back in the day on my SoundCloud. I just posted one, so go ahead and go check that out. Don't forget, next week, we got my brother from another mother, Brendan O'Neill, is going to be coming here to the Loft, spinning live trance classics. I really, really can't wait to have him here. It's going to be an honor and a pleasure to host the very first DJ coming live from the Loft. So really, really excited about that. And don't forget, as you heard, Lucas Prada will be here in 2 weeks. And just at the end of the day, what I want to do is just bring on people here that you guys know and love, get to know them a little bit more on a deeper level, and, you know, do what I do best, and that's hang out with you guys. So as always, thank you so much for chilling with Mendez tonight. We will see you back here next week for Brendan O'Neill. Peace. Have a good night, guys.